Just as effective recoveries of the arms are critical for speed on the surface, so too are recovery of the legs during underwater kicking. If swimmers can't execute this skill quickly and effectively, they're ultimately going to swim slower underwater, which is going to compromise their performance. Let's take a look at what effective recoveries are during underwater kicking and why they're so important. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. One of the variables that's most consistently been shown to lead to fast underwater kicking is the recovery of the kick, or when the legs are moving behind the body. Foot speed during this motion has been shown to be absolutely critical. At a minimum, if swimmers can't recover their legs quickly, it's going to take more time until they can execute the next down kick. It's also possible, perhaps even likely, that a fast recovery of the legs is also important for generating propulsion in terms of the fluid dynamics that are happening during underwater kicking. The bottom line is that the feet need to be moving fast when they're moving behind the body just as much as when they're moving forward in front of the body. But it's not just about foot speed. How the legs are recovered matters as well. When watching underwater kicking, especially at speed, it's easy to get the impression that the knees are bending during the recovery of the kick, and many ineffective underwater kickers will actually emphasize this motion when they're trying to move through the water. In fact, the knees are never actively bent and the leg is lifted straight up. It's only when swimmers start to kick back down that the knee bends, and that is an important distinction. When the kick is executed in that way, it creates a whip-like kicking action rather than just a movement that's coming from the knee. So it allows the whole body to get involved in effective underwater kicking, and the wave that starts up top can be transferred down to the feet. And as I said, it can create a whip-like kicking action, which is both efficient and effective. It creates a lot of speed, and it allows swimmers to do so repeatedly. Since this motion can be relatively difficult to visualize until you've seen it, let's take a look at how elite swimmers make it happen. So if we watch this swimmer here, they're just finishing their down kick, the kick that's moving forward, and as you can see at this point, the legs are going to be straight at the finish of the down kick. Now what's going to happen during the recovery, you can see here, the legs are lifting completely straight up, and the only visible bend happens right there, but that's not driven by pulling the feet up. That's happening because the thighs are starting to move back down forward. And so in reality, while it looks like the feet continue to go higher and higher, what's happening is that the feet reach their highest point and then the knees bend because the thigh is being driven back down. And so the feet will actually stay in the same spot, but it looks like they're being elevated because the thigh is actually moving forward. And so by lifting the legs straight up and then snapping back down, that's going to create the whip-like action. Because the thighs are now moving forwards, the feet are not moving forwards, but eventually then the thigh will continue to move, that wave will catch up to the feet, and then everything will snap back down. So again, the legs are going to lift straight up. If swimmers bend at the knees, they're going to lose that connection, and then their legs are driven back down in a wave. So the muscles of the torso are going to contract, the thigh is going to start moving forward, and then the shin moves forward, and then the ankles follow, and it all snaps through. As it happens, there's more range of motion, there's more speed, so by the end, the feet are moving through a really big range of motion with a lot of speed. But again, that can only happen when the legs are lifted straight up and then they're snapped down in a wave. The wave can't happen if the feet come up independent of the leg. So again, it's an aggressive kick down, but it's an aggressive kick back up. And if we watch the speed here, we're going to see that the feet are moving very quickly back up, but it's not moving in a bent motion like it is during the down kick. What's happening is that the legs are lifted straight up, the thighs reverse, the feet are actually stationary, and then everything travels all the way through. So an effective recovery is fast, and in contrast to the down kick, to the kick that's moving forward, the knees don't bend actively, they only bend once the down kick's happening, and that's what's driving the bend in the knee. And because the foot stays elevated, it's then whipped and snapped back down, and that allows swimmers to create a lot of propulsion during their down kick. So if we watch swimmers on their back, we're going to see the same skills. So the knees are bent here during the up kick, during the kick forward, then the kick is finished, and then the legs are being recovered straight back. And again, they only start to bend once the thigh starts to move forwards. And so the feet have reached their final point. They stay in that point. The thigh starts to move forward. The slack gets taken out of the system, and then boom, the legs snap forward. And again, that's where we're going to get a lot of propulsion. So the kick is going to be fast in both directions, and you can see that the feet are moving very quickly in both ways. So the feet are moving very quickly in both directions, but what's happening with the kick behind the body, the recovery, is that it's going to happen very straight, and then the bending happens once the thigh starts to move forward, and then everything snaps forward. So an effective recovery is going to be very straight. If swimmers are just bending at the knees, there's not going to be any sort of wave action to the kick. It's a wave action to the whole body, and that's going to severely compromise the effectiveness of the kick. So another swimmer here, we're going to see the kick down here, just finished. At this point, the legs are straight, and then they're brought straight up, and then you can see the thighs start to move forwards there, and that's where it's going to lead to the bending of the knee. And so the knees don't bend actively in terms of lifting the feet up. The whole leg is lifted up, and then when swimmers drive the knee back down, that bends the knee. The feet more or less stay in the same place, and then eventually everything snaps down, and that's going to create a big burst of propulsion, and that's ultimately what's going to lead to an effective kick. So the whole wave travels down the body. You can see the chest is low, then the abs are low, then the hips are low, then the knees are low, and then the feet are low. And for that wave to happen, the leg needs to be lifted straight up during the recovery. It needs to happen fast, so there's no delay in that wave, and it has to happen straight so that everything stays connected. And so that's going to lead to a very effective kick, as if swimmers can be really good in both directions. And importantly, while they have to be fast in both directions, the skill of the kick is not the same. There's going to be a much greater emphasis on a straight recovery, and then things are going to bend during the kick forward. And that dynamic, managing both of those two skills, which are distinct and doing so at speed, is going to be really critical for fast underwater kicking. For more on how to help swimmers develop a symmetrical kick where they're extremely effective with the recovery of the kick, check out the video below.